1695. You were born in London, not in a manor house, and certainly not in a bed with clean sheets. Your journey began in a dim Wapping cellar, where you, tightly swaddled, rested on a pile of damp, salt-crusted straw. It is a place that hasn't seen sunlight since the Great Fire. It smells of raw sewage, coal smoke, and cheap gin. You aren't a nobleman, but don't start complaining. You are the fifth child of a washerwoman who spends her days scrubbing the blood and filth of the city out of soldiers' uniforms. In the world of the 17th century, that's just a polite way of saying you are biological refuse, a human spare part with zero inheritance and even less of a future. Forget the golden age you've seen in picture books. For you, this is the age of starvation. Your childhood isn't about toys or stories. It's a desperate, grimy sprint to reach puberty without dying of the plague or typhus. Instead of milk, you were fed mother's ruin, industrial-grade gin that's cheaper than clean water. It kills the parasites in your gut and makes you sleep so you don't cry from the bone-chilling cold of the London winter. You were forged in the gutter, and the gutter never lets go. You are 6 years old. In a different century, you'd be learning your ABCs. Here, your classroom is the toxic mud of the River Thames at low tide. You are a mudlark. Every morning, you and a pack of other skeletal children descend into the black, sucking sludge of the riverbanks. You spend 12 hours a day, bent double, clawing through the filth with your bare hands. You are looking for treasures, dropped coal, iron scraps, copper nails from the shipyards, or, if the gods of the gutter are feeling merciful, a silver coin dropped by a drunk merchant. This is your first internship in the corporate world of misery. The mud is a soup of human waste, industrial runoff, and the occasional human bone. You're barefoot, of course. One deep cut on your heel from a broken bottle means an infection that will turn your blood to poison by the weekend. You don't have a childhood. You have a survival strategy. By the time you're 10, you've seen more corpses floating in the river than most men see in a war. You learn your first lesson early. The city takes everything and gives back nothing but decay. 1711. You're 16. You've grown up lean, mean, and permanently hungry. You're working on the docks, hauling heavy barrels for a few pennies, dreaming of a meal that doesn't taste like sawdust. Then you see 'em. Men in blue coats with heavy wooden clubs, the press gang. You try to run, but hunger has made your legs weak and your lungs thin. A heavy wooden cudgel connects with the back of your skull. Crack! The world goes black. You don't wake up in a hospital. You wake up on the damp, heaving deck of a third-rate man-of-war. The air is thick with the smell of 300 unwashed bodies, rotten wood, and bilge water. A man with a face like a scarred boot kicks you in the ribs and tells you to get up. Congratulations, kid. You've been volunteered for the Royal Navy. You didn't choose the sea. The sea kidnapped you. You are now a state-sponsored slave on a floating fortress of iron and oak. You were 18. You've spent 2 years in a floating prison. Life in the Royal Navy is a masterpiece of human misery designed by aristocrats who have never seen a wave. You share a berth with hundreds of men in a space meant for half that number. The diet? Hardtack. 50% flour, 50% weevils. If the biscuit walks across the table on its own, that's just extra protein. You drink water from wooden barrels that turned green 6 months ago. We call it the swamp. It's basically liquid dysentery. Discipline? The cat o' nine tails. The lieutenant treats you like a sentient piece of timber. Did you pull the rope too slow during a gale? 12 lashes. Did you look at him with insolence? 24 lashes. The whip is a braided horror of knotted rope that doesn't just cut, it hooks into your flesh and tears it away in strips. By 20, your back is a map of white scars and raw meat. You realize the honor they talk about in the tavern songs is a lie. The king gets the sugar, the spices, and the gold. You get the scars and the scurvy. You're 20, 17, 15. The golden age of piracy is at its boiling point. Your Navy ship captures a merchant vessel. But there's a problem. The crew of the merchant ship isn't fighting back. They're cheering. Out of the morning mist, a black flag rises. These aren't the monsters the papers back in London talked about. They're men just like you, escaped slaves, disgraced sailors, and mudlarks who got tired of the lash. They board your ship and kill your captain, not because he's an enemy, but because he's a tyrant. Then they offer you the choice. You can stay and be a slave for the king for 10 shillings a month, or you can sign the articles and be a freeman. You don't think twice. You've just quit your job at the world's most violent corporation to join a deadly democratic startup. Forget the movies. A pirate ship is more organized than a modern hedge fund. Before you even touch a rope, you sign the articles with a bloody thumbprint. This is your legal contract. Democracy. You vote for the captain. If he's a coward, a drunk, or a jerk, you vote him out and leave him on a sandbar with a bottle of water and a pistol. Disability insurance. This is better than any modern plan. Lose an arm, 600 pieces of 8. Lose a leg, 400. Blinded in one eye, 100. Profit sharing. The captain only gets 2 shares of the loot. You get 1. In the Navy, the captain got 1,000 shares and you got nothing. For the first time in your life, you were a shareholder in your own survival. But free doesn't mean safe. It means you are now responsible for your own death. You're 22. 90% of your life is sheer, soul-crushing boredom. You sit in a dead calm under a Caribbean sun that wants to peel your skin off like an orange. Then the decay starts. Your teeth start to wobble in your gums like loose nails. Your gums turn into black, bleeding sponges. This is scurvy. Your body is literally losing the ability to hold itself together because you haven't seen a piece of fruit in 6 months. Old wounds, scars from the Navy whip from years ago suddenly rip open. You are falling apart while you work. But you aren't alone. You have a matelot. This is the pirate version of a civil union. You and another sailor share everything. Your clothes, your food, your prizes. You even wear an eye patch, not because you're blind, but so one eye is always adjusted to the dark of the ship's hold. Pirate night vision. If you die in battle, your matelot gets your gold. It's the only insurance policy you'll ever have. You're 23. You spot a Spanish galleon. The captain orders the Jolly Roger to be raised. The black flag is a psychological hack. It's a marketing tool. It says, surrender now and we only take your cargo. You live. Most merchant captains give up immediately. It's a peaceful robbery. But this galleon decides to be brave. They fire a broadside that splinters the wood of your hull. That's when the black flag comes down and the Jolly Rouge, the solid red flag, goes up. Translation, no quarter. Everyone on that ship dies. No prisoners. You don't fight like a hero. You fight like a butcher. You use a cutlass, a short, thick blade designed for hacking meat in the tight, slippery confines of a deck. You carry 4 pistols because they take a minute to reload and usually misfire. You are a whirlwind of smoke, steel, and screaming. By sunset, the deck is pink with blood. You won. You're rich. For about 5 minutes. You're 25. You've made it further than any mudlark in history.
You head to Nassau. In 1720, this is the Silicon Valley of outlaws. No laws, no kings, and no taxes. You spend a year's wages in 3 nights. You drink bumbo, rum, sugar, and nutmeg that tastes like heaven and feels like a kick from a horse. You spend your gold on silk shirts you'll tear in a week and companionship that gives you diseases that haven't even been named yet. You think you're a king, but the British Empire has finally realized that freedom is bad for the bottom line. They've sent the pirate hunters. They aren't looking for a fight, they're looking for an execution. The party's over, and the bill is due. You're 26. You didn't die in a legendary duel with a Spanish admiral, and you weren't taken by a sea monster. It happened on a Tuesday. During a minor skirmish with a fleeing merchantman, a stray 12-pound cannonball, fired by a panicking cook who had never touched a gun before, skipped off the water like a flat stone. It didn't hit the ship's hull. It took a high, lazy bounce and connected directly with your chest. There was no time for last words or a dramatic sunset. One moment, you were a king of the Caribbean. The next, you were a localized cloud of red mist and splinters. In the physics of the 18th century, iron always beats flesh.
There is no burial at execution, Doc, and no iron cage for the birds to pick at. You are given the sailor's grave, which is just a polite way of saying you've become part of the food chain. Your crewmates don't cry, they just check your pockets for loose coins before sliding what's left of you over the gunwale. You sink into the cold, crushing blackness of the Atlantic. You aren't a hero, and you aren't a legend. You are just 80 kilograms of organic matter, providing a feast for the crabs and bottom feeders. The ocean doesn't care about your articles or your freedom. It only cares about the salt. Game over. Total years lived, 26. Gold earned, 10,000 pieces of 8. Gold spent, 10,000 pieces of 8. Cause of death, kinetic energy and a hungry ocean. The pirate life wasn't a movie. It was a violent, desperate strike against a world that treated you like trash. You lived fast, you died hard, and you left nothing behind but the wind and the salt. If you can still feel the salt sting in your eyes and the phantom weight of the noose, crush that like button and subscribe. We don't do fairy tales here. We do reality. Now the choice is yours. Whose eyes should we look through next? Drop your choice in the comments. Your vote decides who lives next.